captain of the paddle steamer, because I lived on the Clyde, and he came, talked about his job. So every job that anyone came, you know, the doctors, nurses, whatever, we all put our hands up. Then one day a priest came, and after he left, I put my hand up for that as well. As Danny Sweeney, myself, and Maureen Cullen, we three of us put our hands up. He didn't get a big sale in the rest of his class. But, so something strange happened. Rosie O'Grady went, "Oh right, you two boys can have the afternoon off and go see the priest and tell him you want to be a priest." Now she hadn't given us the afternoon off to go to see the, you know, the steam captain or the doctor or the binman or the fireman. None of these things. But the afternoon off to go. Anyway, we were delighted. So off we set. Mary Cullen, for some reason, wasn't allowed to go. Anyway, off we set. I got to the man's, you know, the rectory. I'm about to knock on the door. Danny Sweeney lost his bottle. He said, "I'm not want to be a priest." I said, "You're a coward." "Yes, I'm going to be a priest, so there." And so I went up and knocked on the door. They opened the door. The priest came out and said, "I want to be a priest." And then, whoosh, before I could know it, I was, sent off to a seminary. And so I started training to be a priest, and that was the deep religious calling I had. It was just to show Danny Sweeney what a coward he was. And then when I got there, though, I loved it. I actually did love it. And it was very, very wondrously strange, because where I come from in Dunoon is a kind of then it was a very insular little town. It's almost an island, and in the winter it's totally cut off. And therefore it was very focused on itself and not really interested in much of the outside world, really. At least my family were. But when I got to this place, which later a priest called, you know, a Catholic Bostel, really, it was a very hard life we led, a monastic life, and we had to get up very early in the morning. It was freezing up in the Highlands of Scotland. Our next door neighbour was Balmoral, way up there, you know, in Aberdeen. They were noisy, those neighbours. We kept complaining. They were playing bagpipes and singing "God Save the Queen" all the time. I said, "Shut up." Anyway, they were our neighbours, but we had to get up and do in the morning, freezing, cold. I loved every minute of it. And also, we were cut off from the rest of the world, but yet it introduced me to the whole world. It introduced me to music, classical music. We used to have these wonderful meals. We had French nuns cooking for us. I mean, the food was up to die for, and we all nearly died of it, really, because we ate so much of it. But on a Sunday, every month, we used to have a silent meal where someone read to us, and I used to love those. You just sit there and someone would read, you know, like stories of travels in Rome and Spain and places like that. And I think that's where I got my bug for traveling. Even though I was locked up in this seminary. And then, well, you know, in fact, the whole world was introduced to me while I was locked up in a seminary. I mean, we went hierarchy. Because I was a double-barreled name, I went to a grammar school, I was also at boarding school, and I was Scottish, whereas he was Irish and he was a genius. So, you know, that was the English class system I learned very quickly. So, it's sadly still around. Not as much.
So then you moved to the Roundhouse Theatre,
yeah,
I believe, in Chalk Farm.
Yeah.
But that wasn't initially for acting, was it?
No, it was to earn a living. Acting. Oh, you don't act. Well, actually, I did earn a living in acting, but that was just a freak. Yeah, what happened was that the 60s arrived. One of the companies I was working for went bust. I kind of became unemployed, but then it was a good thing to be unemployed in those days. You could drop out. I grew my hair long. I became a hippie. You know, I had dangly bits and beads and things like that. Hipsters and you know, sandals, and you know, the odd little and I didn't inhale, unlike the ex-president of the United States. So it was the 60s. We all did that kind of stuff. And the Roundhouse was a theatre in London, still is, but then it was kind of starting off, and it was the centre of the hippie revolution. Some, you know, amazing art, theatre, rock and roll, music, the Stones played there. I was a bouncer for them one night, all that kind of stuff. It was the happening place. And they needed someone in the box office. So what they really wanted was a hippie who could count. And I could. I had all these skills from the City of London. So I was ideal for that job. So I got the job at the box office, and I loved it because I was using the skills I had, but for some good reason. Because in the city it was like working for reinsuring airports, or I mean, it was just boring and horrible, and I hated it. But using it wasn't the skills I hated having or using, but when I found that at another time when I worked voluntary for VSO using my office skills, and I loved doing it. So that's a secret. If you've got these skills and you hate doing the job, find something you like doing that, using those skills for, because then it makes it so much easier.
So how did Ken Campbell find you?
Well, when I was in the Roundhouse, Brian Murphy of George and Mildred fame and The Last of the Summer Wine, he was collecting the tickets I was selling when it wasn't working, because his wife was an administrator at the Roundhouse. So he'd come in and just hang around, and we used to just loon around, you know. I remember we had local cut on, and it was a very rude show, and he'd come in pretending he was a dirty old man, and I'd throw him down the stairs. And then sometimes I'd come in pretending I was drunk, and he'd throw me down the stairs. So we did this thing just to amuse ourselves, really. And he thought I was an actor, and then one day Ken Campbell came in and said, "Here, Brian," he said, "I've got this mad show, someone's let me down, and you know, I'm looking for some young actor. Any ideas?" Brian said, "That's the guy in the box office. He's out of his head." So Ken came up to me and said, "Here, do you want to join my show?" And I said, "Yes," because I always said yes to everything. It's one of my philosophies of life is to say yes. And I think that's why my career has been so interesting, really. I've had an amazing career when I look back. It's because I've said, yeah. Because I also, luckily I wasn't a girl, because I can never say no. I mean, it's just one of those things. Anyway, so I said yes, and I joined the roadshow, and that was it, really.
And ended up setting your head on fire.
Yeah, exploding bombs in my chest and blowing fire and setting my head on fire. It was a trick, actually. I shouldn't tell you, but it was. I used to have a round tube, and in it was a flap that went down right here, and then there was cotton wool with, you know, kind of paraffin on it, and then they put a big flame down the funnel, and it would flame up. But one night we did a late night show, and the guy who was supposed to do the flapping and all that, he was drunk and he forgot to, and he actually did set light to my head. So I had I went in with a lot of hair, came out bald.
So how, from theatre and the roadshow, did you make the jump to television? Because of course then you went to things like Vision On, Tiswas and Jigsaw, which is where I first ever saw you as one of the omen in Jigsaw.
Yeah.
So how did you make that leap from the stage onto television?
Well, the director of Vision On, Clive Doig, he came and saw the roadshow and really loved it, and so when there was a mime artist who was on it and he was leaving, so I replaced him. That was it, really. That was my first TV series. It was a great, for those that don't know, it was a very visual series. It started off 12 years before, or maybe 9 years before anyway. I think it lasted 12 years, yeah. It started off as a program for, you know, the deaf, and then gradually became a program that everyone could watch, which is great, because that means deaf people, hard of hearing, you know, could be equal to and with. And it became hugely popular, won BAFTAs and Grand Prix de Jeunesse awards all over the place. It was a lovely program to do.
And it's where Tony Hart
started,
well,
and also Adman, you know, Aardman, morphed out of that and into, you know, the amazing Aardman studios now. They grew out of that.
Fantastic. So then you went on to things like Jigsaw, Tiswas, which I remember watching as a child on Saturday mornings, which was fabulous. Eureka, Star Strider, then a bit more serious stuff, BBC Two Playhouse, The Last Place on Earth, and you were with Martin Shaw, Max von Sydow, and a very young Bill Nighy and Hugh Grant.
That's right, yes. Yeah, Bill and I and Hugh, yeah, we spent 14 weeks on that series, and we actually spent 5 weeks in the Arctic. So you really get to know people, you know, because you're locked up in the Arctic. It was a great adventure. I loved it. I mean, I loved being in the Arctic. It was just quite magical, really. It was extraordinary, this snow. They used to send us out, and we had to go out like on a banana shape like that, because they were filming virgin snow. And we were in the Arctic, but, you know, no one complained. It's supposed to be the Antarctic, but, you know, the snow was the same. Anyway, we used to go out in this banana, and then they would make us wait while they worked out the shot, and then the action would come. And you used to stand there, kind of freezing, really cold, freezing, but you didn't shake with the cold. It went beyond that. You actually just froze. You became statue-like. You know, you tried not to move anything too much, just to keep everything. And the strange thing about the Arctic is that it is desert. It is, to try and get real snow, they had to import snow from the south. They had to fly snow up so we could have snow in the shot. Which is completely weird. But now and again some snow would fall, and it does fall like little flakes, and each one is different, as they say. And it was like kind of meditation. You stand there for about an hour just looking at the snowflakes on your grey glove, and then you'd see your whole life. It wasn't because you were going to die, but because it was all white, you could actually, I'd think of my family, and I could see them, think about them and what they did, playing, and it was just like a little film. And then they show action, and then off we'd.
So then you also had a very varied stage career as well. You did solo shows as Stan Laurel and Buster Keaton, Moliere, and then for the Royal Shakespeare Company you did The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I believe, if I'm right, your first meeting with Sir Ian McKellen before you went on as Radagast in the Hobbit films was as his fool in King Lear.
Well, yes, it wasn't quite the first meeting. I remember meeting him once, somewhere, some social thing. And someone said, "Oh, Ian, this is Silvester McCoy." And he looked down and he said, "Yes, I've heard of you." That was my first meeting. But then the second meeting was when we started rehearsals for King Lear. And we were all arrived in the room, and Ian came in, and he was a bit nervous, kind of apprehensive, as people are sometimes at these things, so to speak. And he came in and he was very serious looking, and Trevor Nunn took me up to meet him and said to him, "Ian, this is your fool." And he looked down, and then he said, I could say yes or no to an actor. Only one part, he said. I could say veto or no. And I thought that would be Cordelia, because in King Lear, the king at the end has to carry Cordelia, his daughter, dead, onto the stage. And I thought, yeah, well, obviously, you want to go and find the skinniest Cordelia you can get. But we had, what's her name? I'm so bad at names. They will come to me. Well, anyway, we had a rather voluptuous Cordelia. And I remember thinking, well, wow, I hope Ian's strong, because every night, twice on Saturdays, he's got to carry her onto the stage at the end of a very, very heavy play. But no, he looked at me and he said, no, it was you. And I decided that you should do it. And I said, well, thank you very much. But I had a feeling that maybe he regretted it at that moment, I don't know. But he also said to me, this is at the very beginning, he said, in Shakespeare, the King Lear and the Fool, they never get on. The two actors never get on. And he told the story about John Gielgud met Ralph Richardson somewhere. And John said, "Oh dear boy, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing Lear at Stratford." "Oh, look out for your fool, look out for your fool." And that's what he told me. This is the beginning. But by the end of it, he came up to me the very last day and he said, Silvester, he said, "We've made history because we got on." And he said, "It's thanks to you." And I said, no, it's two of us. It takes two to tango. And but under my breath, I thought, no, it was thanks to me.
And then, of course, you went...
Yeah, we toured, for a year and a half, we toured the world, and we went to New Zealand, and we met Peter Jackson, and Peter Jackson invited me, Frankie Barber, who was playing Cordelia, and Ian up to their country mansion place, which was very, and I knew I was auditioning for something. I had a feeling, do you know what I mean? I knew, God, I had a whole weekend. Now, normally you go for an audition or go to meet someone, have a meeting, it's only half an hour, at the most. You could be charming for half an hour, but for a whole weekend. So I was kind of, oh God, I know I'm going to put my foot in it. I know that they're looking at me for something, but I know I'm going to put my foot in it. But I didn't. I managed not to put my foot in it. And so I got the part of Radagast from that, really. Then flying out was such a huge adventure, flying around the world. I flew around the world on those 3 years about 7 times. I flew around the world 7 times. So each time I went, I lost a day in my life. So I'm now I'm a week younger than I was when I started The Hobbit. So, and I made it an adventure. I'd go sometimes 2 weeks early and go to India for 2 weeks. Or when I was coming back, maybe 2 weeks, go to China or the South Sea Islands, or travel. I mean, I made it a huge adventure. Or Dubai, you know, just pop in places, because they were paying for first class flights and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, well, hey, why not do it? Even though they put shit all over me. But I mean, that was, you know, birds poop, bird poop. Yeah, so it was a great adventure. I loved doing it.
Fantastic. Now, I would love to sit here and talk to you about the Marigold Hotel, and to be honest, I could talk to you all day, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have run out of time with Silvester. He will be back later on with Sophie together. We will let you ask all the questions you want, but for now, please give a very, very big thank you for Mr. Silvester McCoy.